Quack, 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 quack. That is right. Back here with your boy Adam Chimeo of the Quack 12 podcast. We have won 31-10 against the Michigan State Spartans. That is right, a team which overall we beat. We have beaten them more than we have not beaten them, which is cool to say. Entering the Big Ten, it's nice to have that kind of record. This game felt like it could have been the ultimate trap game. You know what a trap game is. The trap game, I consider that, I believe Solid Verbal really coined the term, the amazing podcast. It's that game right before a way bigger game that is just set to distract you and your players and, take up your practice time ahead of a, smaller game, and then the small team trips you up and you lose to them. You see it all the time in college football. You're thinking ahead. It's like when you try to, go upfield before actually securing the catch. It's that kind of deal. Well, that did not happen here. It did not happen, even though there was a few elements of what lead to an upset usually. And this is week 6 we're talking about. Week 6 is one of those famous weeks. We already know it is, where upsets were happening left and right. We had number 1 Alabama lose to Vanderbilt, which was amazing. Just gutsiness by that. I loved that QB. Oh my God, Vanderbilt's QB. Not enough to remember his name clearly, and then number 4 Tennessee falls. 2 SEC teams, and obviously Alabama falling hurts Georgia a little bit, who struggled but ultimately came out pretty dang victorious over Auburn. But Alabama losing definitely makes all that look a little weaker. We're not all fighting for 4 spots, so it means a little bit less. I would still be very afraid to play this Alabama team. But, yeah. We won. This next matchup's going to be crazy. But let's talk about this game here. Because first of all, some of every single week, we can't just have a good game. We got to do something that makes the fan base think that we're the worst team in the world. This time it was 2 interceptions, 2 first half interceptions thrown by our man Dylan Gabriel, who will likely break the record for most games started by a player, full stop, in college football. Probably going to break some, passing yards records and such, career records. So it's not something you want to see from the vet, that he's making some pretty solvable, pretty huge mental errors. Aiden Childs-esque errors. But Aiden Childs had the benefit of being, he's young. This is his first time really, leading a team. 10-17 of 54 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's what Childs did. That's what our amazing defense held him to. Dylan Gabriel, 20 of 32, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, but like I said, 2 picks. Also ran in a score. Love to see that. Now, I think the bigger thing is, the thing that maybe we should kind of be taken in a little bit more, is that despite the fact that, he threw those 2 bummer picks, by halftime we were up 21-0. And that's because the rest of the team was just playing out of their damn mind, namely our defense, namely our defensive line. Jordan Birch, holy hell, Caldwell had that boom punching out the ball at the 2-yard line. That would have been, certainly it would have felt momentous if they would have scored first after we go, I believe, 3 and out. That, who knows what that would have changed? Probably not much. We probably still win by a lot, but pretty dang cool. What was not cool were those picks, which is going to be what most every Duck fan talks about when you talk about this game. As you're going to remember. And the fact that it was before Ohio State. And the fact that the pick comes off of, after last year against UCLA. Not last year. Last game, that pick six right at the end of the half, which happened in the red zone. It's tough. As of right now, the turnover battle, the turnovers in general are not really our friend. We were 5-5 on the season. Kind of a mixed bag, whereas in many of our games in which they were closer than they needed to be, we're due 2, turnovers on our side. Namely Boise State, 2 fumbles. 1 from Gabriel, 1 from Ferguson, I do believe. Many of our games became more comfortable wins because of turnovers. Namely, like Idaho. Getting those picks was key. And overall, we're sitting here at 5-5. We had 4 interceptions this season. So I do like what the secondary is doing quite a bit. Overall, the entire defense has been a strength, let me tell you. And everything changes when you get pressure on the QB, which is seemingly what we're doing right now. Pretty regularly. And it's been heating up, honestly. Yeah. And I'm feeling freaking good about it. The Oregon fans were crazy against Michigan State. You got to love that. We didn't have to play on the actual upset Saturday, which is also huge. I believe we end up with 5 penalties. Very few on the offensive line, really. I don't think any, actually. We had the unsportsmanlike on, I want to say, Tysheem Johnson in the first quarter. An illegal formation in the second quarter. Legal snap in the second quarter. So there you go. I guess there's that one. Then 2 in the fourth, which were, on the B and the C squad, really. Which is good to see them in there. Stuff like running into the kicker and block below the waist. Like stuff that you can usually train out of players. Don't do that. Like, hopefully it's the last time either of those players do it. Turner and Cam Alexander. I mean, it was a butt kicking. And if you really compare it to Ohio State's numbers, it's insane. Like Ohio State versus Michigan State, Oregon versus Michigan State. Both those O teams were at home. Both of them kicked Michigan State's butt. Oregon allowed a few more points, 10, but very similar numbers, as in like both teams, what they allowed, what they were able to do on offense. Very, very similar. The only difference really is those 2 picks we threw as opposed to the 1 pick Ohio State threw. And, but other than that, it's all completely, comparing 2 teams' results, there's only so much you can really get out of that anyways, but yeah, pretty dang cool. I'm just glad to get the Big Ten win. First downs, like 6 of 12 we win, but 2 of 11 is what we forced from Michigan State. The entire defense is just amazing, honestly. Really one reason why I think Duck fans are not having a good time in games that are pretty great time, honestly. Not all of them, but, that Idaho game, that Boise State game was great. Idaho, if it's a close game against Idaho, we should not be happy. But Tatum, Tuio, the reason why I think some Duck fans are angry is because they're not used to seeing a defense-driven team, and holy hell, is that what we got right now. Not in a bad way, too. Not in an Iowa way. Not in a Michigan way. Tatum, Tuioti had a great game. 7 total tackles, 4 solo. Bryce Betcher, as always, just came out with his hair on fire. He got a tackle for a loss. Overall, we had 5 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, 3 passes defended. Everyone was getting it. Jordan Birch had one of his best games as a Duck, probably his best game. 2.5 sacks. Hell yeah. Just brutal, especially the further the team gets, the opposing team gets behind, the more dangerous he gets when he can really tee off. Jamari Caldwell, one of my favorite players to watch. He got 2 solo tackles, 4 in total. Justin Jacobs was there. Brandon Johnson had a good pass defended. I just love to see it all. I think the players that don't watch, or the fans, the viewers that don't watch this team actually play, they just know from preseason, they're like, Jabbar Muhammad, he's their best player. And that's all they're ready to say because they read some article that says top 10 transfers in the offseason or something. But actually, he got burned that one play, that one on their first offensive drive in which almost got led to a score, but then, the forced turnover. Man. And one person we simply have to shout out because it's a complete anomaly. This may never happen in Oregon again, and it certainly will. I've never seen this. An actual field goal kicker that can just drain it. Holy hell. Andrew Boyle, where have you been all our life? Well, at first you were Washington State, and then all last year you were injured. But you do remember, everyone remembers, a highlight. If you're a Duck fan from this guy, you remember the onside kick against UCLA in 222. 222. That's how you say 2022 now. He was the man who did it. So that was a huge, that was a big momentum changer, as we all know. We were already up, and then we go for the onside kick against a team that was scoring quite a bit of points. So that was awesome, honestly. And now he comes back and hits a 50-yard field goal. What does that mean? For Oregon, what does that mean? Does that mean he maybe eats into Sappington's time? Maybe, because he hit a 50-yard field goal. Sure, it was right down the middle, but that's a weapon we got to start using more, I think. And, Dan Lanning was in Dylan Gabriel's ear of, both those picks you threw, those could have been field goals. Those could have been 3-6 more points. It could have been some points. And I hope Dan Lanning is getting a little bit more into that mentality of, you know what, ain't nothing wrong with a field goal. Especially if it's a sure thing, which I don't want to put that on Boyle. I don't want him missing a 20-yarder, and it's because I jinxed him. But a 50-yard field goal, holy hell. In college, that's nuts. It's nuts. Even in the NFL nowadays, you never know. But not quite Oregon's longest. I believe I had that written down, what Oregon's longest actually was. But amazing. I love just Duck Twitter, too, just going off like that. It was a good way to forget about the picks. Because that was just, I don't know, it was like seeing a rainbow. It was like seeing a unicorn rainbow. That is a rainbow made of unicorns, by the way. Man. Overall, this is a good game. Duck fans, take a breath. Well, I don't even think there's going to be many Duck fans that are upset with this result because Saturday just happened, and you saw that there's a lot of good teams that were tested or broke. Like I said, Georgia looked a little sloppy there. It looked like that would be maybe something. Tennessee loses. Alabama loses very famously. Even I was watching Saturday Night Live, and at the end of Saturday Night Live, the host says, "And Vanderbilt beat Bama." Very cool. Shit. Miami maybe should have lost. Man, Cal cooged it. So that's almost 3 top 10 teams. There's more, I know. Really, really fun week of basketball, football. I know what sport I'm talking about. It's really early here, okay? I'm just trying to get my thoughts out here. Which I don't know how many more I have, honestly. Dante Moore, we did see him throw a pass. That was cool. We also saw him come in earlier in the game because for a second, Dylan Gabriel looked like he really got whacked when he made that fun connection with Trayshawn Holden as he's falling backwards. Very impressive. Glad to see. Dylan Gabriel is a tough guy. He really is. The only knock you can have on him in these last 2 games, which or pretty big knocks, are those picks which were completely preventable. And I think the conversation really quickly went to well, if we did this against Ohio State, it would be over. Ohio State's very good, but I think right now, and if he threw 2 picks, those could very likely be the deciding factor of those games, obviously. But Ohio State is not a perfect team. This isn't some of the other national title contenders of the last seasons, even like a Georgia or something like that. They may very well be, but they haven't quite proven themselves to be that. And I think it's very possible that against Ohio State, if we're going to win, that's a game that our defense won for us and our offense did enough, had enough consistency. Almost in all of the, outside of, Idaho and stretches, basically the first half of Boise State, Oregon's offense has looked like a sure thing. I know a lot of people like to complain about the RPOs, the checkdowns, stuff like that, the quick little passes, but we are moving down the field. Things could be going so much better outside of a few small execution errors. And a lot of the execution errors are stuff that likely won't be repeating itself. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's going to be a red zone interception machine. Yes, it has happened the last 2 games, which 3 times is too much. But I don't think that's going to be a consistent thing, especially now that it's happened twice in the game before Ohio State. If anything, we may be working too much of that in practice. Red zone, red zone, red zone. Who's to say too much? But they're circling that now. Just like O-line was a huge thing that they were working on. That was more of a personnel issue, which really seems to be straight up fixed, knock on wood right now, with our current rotation. Not even rotation, with our current starters, which we do not want to rotate, it seems, which I'm fine with that. I'm excited to see what our D-line can do against Ohio State. Our secondary will be tested, and they will absolutely lose some of those tests. Smith, one receiver that looks amazing for them. They have so many options. Also, Judkins is going to get some on the ground. Ohio State will absolutely have offensive success against us. I just can't see us blowing them out. However, I could see maybe if we're on top of things, if Lanning unloads the playbook, which you look at our schedule, this is the game. If you were holding anything back, everything goes into this one. And then you see if you can just kind of survive the last 6 weeks if you get this win. Regardless. But he's got this circle on his calendar. This is the biggest potential win, or this would be the biggest win of Lanning's career as a head coach. This would absolutely be the biggest win. He played that first game against Georgia. That's no one thought we were winning that one. No one was expecting us to win that one. 3 losses to Washington. Each one of those were huge season-deciding losses, Obviously, we lose to Oregon State. That was a terrible one. And our bowl games were not marquee matchups. UNC, Oregon, Liberty, Oregon. Those aren't, nothing to write home about, really. So this would be the biggest win. Just like I've said on record in the past, our win over Ohio State was probably our biggest, however you want to determine that, our biggest win in college regular football or regular season history for the Ducks. The biggest win. Find me another one that's bigger than that, than beating Ohio State, a team we've never beaten before that game. And a team that's historically, as blue blood as you can get. And that was ranked as highly as they were at the time. See, I was trying to talk about Michigan State, and immediately, like everyone, you just, Ohio State. But it was nice to see Jonathan Smith lose again in Autzen. Always nice to see. I saw some people holding like Oregon State t-shirts and stuff like that. That's fun. Get in their heads. Get in their heads. One thing that was amazing to see in this game is really Oregon dominating in the running game. If we can do that against anyone, we should beat them. Like, full stop. Like, Dylan Gabriel is a good enough QB. Our defense could be one of the best defenses we've had in a long time. And that combination really should be enough. If we're able to run the ball, if Dylan Gabriel is able to not throw 2 picks every game and just do, what we know of him, he's definitely a known quantity at this point. Like, I do. People are comparing him too much to Bo Nix. Though at the same time, you could see that there's comparisons to be made. It makes sense. But Bo Nix had 2 seasons here, I don't know. They're different players. Physically, clearly. Like, Dylan Gabriel is a good quarterback, but missing a few physical things Bo Nix had, like that arm strength. There's a few times the receivers are always, what was a really big gain could have been a really big touchdown reception because they're having to come back or a little. But he is a QB who could win us a national championship. He is a caliber enough for that. If everything else is going well enough, and if he's locked in and playing as well as we know he could, then everything's on the table. But rushing the ball well certainly will help everything. We got 5.8 clip per attempt, 213 total yards. This is a team that's, they'll give up some rushing yards, so that is true. But we were there to take it. That's nice. Jordan James had a career night, 166 yards on 24 carries, which averaged 6.9. Nice. 1 touchdown on and also had a 41-yard long run, which, that's what we've been needing all season, is explosive runs, is to get them to truly think about the run so they can't sell out on preventing, on like rushing Dylan Gabriel and stopping the pass. Changing things up will make this team infinitely better. We'll make this team possibly able to beat an Ohio State. Also, our second, I think our secondary is very good, but I'm a little freaked. How many times am I going to see Howard connect with like Smith over Muhammad or someone? You know what I mean? I know there's going to be a lot of times where we feel we've got footing in this game, and then Ohio State gets a 40-yard touchdown where no one touches the receiver. Like, I just feel that in my gut. But I also feel like we're going to make it a game regardless. I'm glad Michigan State, I'm glad that it's done with. For Vernon Adams Jr.'s sake, that one was for you. He's not dead, but, I'm dedicating that game to him. No one even asked me to do that. I'm just doing that. Because I see Journey and Dickey, I'll throw that out there. We didn't see much of him, but we did see him catch a ball. I just like him. They've been talking about him all offseason. I mean, and Jeffrey Bossa, kind of the same thing. Like, glad to see you, man. Supposedly he's feeling 100%. And I love this team. I guess that's all I have to say. What else is there to say? Next episode, regardless of a win or a loss, it's going to be longer than this one because there's a lot to say because it's freaking Ohio State. I'm glad we got game day. That should make us crazier. Plus, it's just nice to have it back on campus. I mean, where else would it be? Come on. We all know Oregon, Ohio. This is going to be a top 5 matchup likely. This is going to be huge in deciding the Big Ten. A win. Oh, man. I got to say, I'm getting more nervous. Because whether we win or lose against Ohio State, let's say we lose, we'll still be favorites to get to the Big Ten championship. But then suddenly, even one more loss, it gets so much, like 2 losses in this conference could sink our chances. There's a number of teams that could sneak in there. Indiana, Penn State. Not Michigan. I really don't think Michigan. And it could be Michigan for all we know. You know, I'm a bit nervous that someone else steals that spot. I really want to make the Big Ten championship game in our first season here. A win over Ohio State. Oh my gosh, our chances just drastically go up. The schedule gets so much easier after that. Not that we couldn't trip up. We almost lost to Idaho. We can trip up to anyone. But it does feel different playing against an Ohio State. It's a different caliber. Eventually, we'll get numb to it, you know. But right now, I know a lot of Duck fans are like, this is the one we've had circled on our calendar. This is the biggest thing in the universe. And I tend to agree with you. Go Ducks. We got the win. Let's enjoy it. Let's not melt down, even if we lose to Ohio State big. This is big. We all know it. Big Ten. Quack, quack. Go Ducks. I'm tired. I gotta go to work. Enjoy your coffee.